I've been living in Australia for 18 months now, since leaving London. So I thought I'd share my thoughts on how I found it, what I've missed, and a key piece of advice that helped us settle. To start with some of the things I've loved since moving to Australia. The first big shock to the system is the early starts, especially in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. Getting up at 7 a.m. was a struggle in London, but now I'd consider that a lie-in. It's bonkers, I know. But I've seen more sunrises in the past year since moving here than I did in my whole life before that. And now I love the early starts. What helps that is obviously the weather, but also the active lifestyle. It is so common to make the most of the 5 to 9 before the 9 to 5, as people say here. Whether that's exercising before work, going on coffee catch-ups, or even people go on dates at sunrise, walks at sunrise, running on the beach. Sure, being close to the beach and the weather helps, but overall the lifestyle is very active, as opposed to the kind of more boozy social lifestyle that comes with London. As anyone who's done the walk from Coogee to Bondi will realise, people here are in pretty good shape. Probably explains why Australia over-indexing all the Olympics. And you just look at some of the sports the kids do, surf lifesaving, where they're like sprinting on the beach, swimming out, surfing in. It's a very active lifestyle, which for me, I absolutely love. Second, casual, active beachwear is very much the norm. You can go barefoot and topless in the supermarket, which I'm all about, and that laid-back lifestyle goes hand in hand with it being very safe, especially compared to London. And yes, living in the eastern suburbs, it's a much safer area. But when we go for a run or a dip in the sea, we'll all leave our bags. And at the gym, there's just piles of keys on the side, which is absolutely bonkers. It's also way cleaner and there's much less rubbish than the UK in general, and also London. My main hypothesis for why that is, I'd be keen to hear what other people think, is maybe because people spend more time outdoors, perhaps there's less inequality as well, so people feel more connected. But yeah, I'm not really sure why, but it's very clean. That might just be me having low standards though, because I'm also impressed by the rubbish collection trucks, which have these like automatic arms that come out, which is pretty cool. And Aussie couldn't believe that in the UK, which had people jump out and like throw the bins in. In terms of transport, sure, there's not really much of a tube, and I'm not a big fan of the cars that can turn into red lights when you're crossing, but the trains are so cheap. We go to the Blue Mountains for like $7, so like £3.50, and the noise when crossing the road is pretty awesome. In terms of food, groceries are in general a bit more expensive, but it's also more seasonal, and it's much more reasonable to eat out. Things like a fish bowl, which costs about £6, probably half the price of an equivalent takeout in London. The wildlife is obviously awesome, not just the kangaroos, koalas, but in the city, like the lorikeets and even the bin chickens, I think are pretty cool. A few things that I've missed and a few challenges from leaving the UK. Obviously, the first one is family, friends, my dog. Being a different time zone is not too bad compared to when I lived in Greece, and it was slightly awkward because normally it's mornings and evenings, so it works well around work. I'm not quite old enough to be in full wedding season, but I know that's a really tricky time for many people too. But that's why coming here, we've had to make such a big effort to grow our social circle. And that's where most of our mates have come from, joining run clubs, we meet the football team as well. As a migrant, I realised I've taken for granted how much of a faff it is to like get on with your life when you're not a citizen. And so I do miss not having a kind of visa deadline in the back of my mind, which I know a lot of people that move here have a similar feeling. And that's a balance I've been navigating between living in the moment and throwing ourselves into life here, building connections to feel settled without thinking too much about plans for what happens when our next visa ends. And the thing is, people always ask when you move to Australia, how long are you moving for? But I'd say that's the wrong question and the wrong way of looking at it. See, when you get a new job or you start a new relationship, no one says, how long are you planning on being in this one? Even though looking back, most jobs and often relationships have some kind of endpoint. You know that if you went in with that mindset, you'd be setting yourself up for failure. So you're just there until you're not. And we've applied that to living here. So we've been trying to meet people, get settled, put roots down, build a community and live in the present, while obviously balancing that with starting to make some plans around what happens when the next visa ends and so on. It's a tricky balance, but one so far I'd say we're managing all right. Overall though, I'd say moving to Australia is one of the best things I've ever done, especially at this stage of my life. And I'm a lot healthier and probably happier here. So cheers to Sydney and Australia, and long may that continue. If you've any questions about moving to Australia, moving somewhere else, designing your dream life, just drop me a message.